She has such good skin.
Yeah.
You hear that phrase all the time.
All the time. Or maybe you even thought it yourself.
Yeah, or looked in the mirror and gone, ugh, I'm having a bad pores day. Feels like just background noise, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But digging into the material for this deep dive, it really struck me. The language we use about skin, it's actually a much bigger deal than it seems.
It really is. And that's what's so interesting, isn't it? How deeply embedded these like simple phrases are.
Right.
And the impact they carry is, well, it's significant. Our mission here is basically to take that source material you mentioned and really unpack it.
Huh?
Like, how did this language even develop? Why is it often kind of harmful? And maybe most importantly, how things are starting to shift.
Toward something better, hopefully.
Honestly, yeah, towards
Like-
something different and I think fundamentally better.
Okay, let's get into it then.
Yeah.
We could start with just those everyday phrases we mentioned. Good skin, bad skin day, bad pores. If you actually stop and think, what does good skin even mean to most people, according to the sources?
Well, the material points out it usually boils down to a few things, even if people don't consciously list them.
Yeah.
Like, smooth texture, probably. Pores not being very visible. Maybe no redness, no spots or blemishes.
So it's defined by what's not there.
Exactly. It's defined by the absence of certain
Yes.
things, which is interesting in itself.
It is. And this is where it got really fascinating for me in the readings. Why frame it as good or bad? Why this value judgment? Why not just skin?
Okay, so this is a core insight from the material. We've somehow developed this really powerful habit. It's almost a learned behavior of assigning value, even a kind of hidden morality almost to how our skin looks.
Morality. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. If you have visible pores or some texture, the old way of talking about it makes it sound like you're flawed somehow.
Right, like you did something wrong.
Exactly. Or if you have acne or maybe some hyperpigmentation, it often gets framed, maybe subtly, maybe not, as like a personal failure.
And the source material is super clear on this.
Yeah.
That kind of thinking. It's not just unhelpful, it's genuinely harmful, especially now in 2025.
Absolutely. Because the language isn't just reflecting how we feel, it's actively shaping how we feel about our skin.
So it tells you what's okay to show the world, what needs fixing.
And that dictates which products you suddenly think you need, right? Just to feel, normal or acceptable.
Which really makes you wonder, where did this whole concept of bad skin even come from?
Yeah, the material gets into that. What people usually mean by bad skin, things like acne, maybe some pigmentation, fine lines, pores that look larger.
Things that are just human.
Precisely. The sources really hammer this home. These are completely normal human characteristics. This is what real skin looks like when it's not airbrushed or filtered.
But someone saw those normal things and saw dollar signs.
Basically, yeah. Traditional beauty marketing, as the material highlights, built a massive industry by effectively teaching us to feel bad about these perfectly normal variations.
Wow. Teaching us to dislike ourselves.
It sounds harsh, but yeah. They took something natural, like a wrinkle, and framed it as, losing the battle with age. A dark spot wasn't just melanin, it was framed as carelessness.
And a blemish wasn't just inflammation.
It was cause for panic, instant panic mode. That was the message.
And those messages clearly stuck around. They weren't just like vintage ads.
Oh no, they became deeply ingrained. The sources show they still pop up in marketing, on packaging, even in some professional materials today. It's sort of the cultural air we breathe around skin.
But, okay, the good news you mentioned. The deep dive shows things are shifting.
Definitely. There's a really conscious effort starting to emerge to, completely flip that script.
How so? What does that look like?
So instead of automatically calling something problem skin, for instance.
Which sounds so negative.
Right. The material suggests moving to language that's more descriptive and less judgmental, like inflammatory prone.
Okay, I see. Or instead of thinking, I have bad skin today.
Maybe thinking something more like, my skin barrier feels like it needs some love, or my skin seems a bit stressed. It's functional.
It sounds subtle, maybe, but the sources really stress that this small change matters. A lot.
It does, because the words aren't just descriptions. They actually direct how you approach caring for your skin.
Explain that a bit more.
Well, think about the old language. Bad skin, flaws, problems. It pushes you towards, panic, maybe harsh scrubs, aggressive treatments, trying to fight your skin.
Right, attack mode.
Yeah. But the new language, talking about your barrier needing support or focusing on balance, it guides you to do what? To pause.
To listen.
Exactly. Listen to what your skin might be telling you,
Yeah.
and then to support its natural functions, not fight against them.
That makes a lot of sense. And it's not just about individual feelings, is it? The material links this to bigger market trends.
Oh, absolutely. Especially with younger consumers. Gen Z,
What are they looking for?
they want real talk, basically. They grew up online, surrounded by filters and editing. They know what fake looks like.
And they're tired of it.
They are so over the, airbrushed promises of perfection.
So a brand still pushing that old perfect skin message.
It feels off to them, according to the sources. Maybe even kind of tone deaf or untrustworthy.
Okay, so what does resonate?
Brands that talk about skin as a living adaptive system. Brands that focus on supporting its microbiome, that community of good bacteria on your skin,
Right.
or building up its strength, treating it kindly, or even just being upfront about clinical tests without all the miracle hype, that builds loyalty.
So we're actually seeing this new vocabulary emerge.
Yeah, definitely. The material points out examples like, anti-aging miracle is being replaced by things like longevity support, more grounded.
Okay. And instead of just clear skin.
We're hearing more about microbiome balance. It acknowledges the skin as this complex, living thing.
So the best brands aren't selling perfection anymore.
No, the sources argue they're offering a kind of partnership, helping your skin function at its best, whatever that looks like for you.
And they're using different words to do it.
Smarter words, not just softer words, as the material puts it. Things like balance, support, glow, but meaning healthy radiance, not just like artificial brightness. Function, calm, resilience, repair, longevity. It's a whole different mindset.
And the source material itself, it wasn't just observing this shift, right? It was
Yeah.
kind of pushing for it.
Yeah, it definitely framed this as a call to action, particularly for professionals in the industry. Brands, formulators, estheticians, educators.
They're called to update their language.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the source even mentions specific resources becoming available for pros looking to do this.
Oh, really? Like what?
Things like free weekly trainings, daily updates on these trends, case studies showing how this new approach works in practice, and even mentioned a global community focused specifically on, and I think this phrase was used, rewriting their vocabulary and building real beauty communities.
So the goal, as presented in the source, is really about us all kind of co-creating a new language for skin.
Yeah, a more human-centered one that celebrates skin's function and its resilience, not just how it measures up to some impossible ideal.
It's kind of amazing, actually, how just changing the words we use can shift our whole relationship with our own skin.
Moving away from judgment towards actual care.
Okay, so let's recap the core idea from this deep dive. The language we've typically used about skin, it's not neutral at all.
Not even close. It's loaded with judgments. It assigns value, and it shapes how we see ourselves and how we treat our skin.
And the big shift that the sources identified is this move away from fighting imperfections and chasing some kind of perfect ideal, and towards language that focuses on support, on function, on resilience, on treating skin kindly.
And this isn't just like feel-good stuff. It has real practical impact. It affects consumer trust, how people connect with brands, and how we all approach actual skin health.
Right. It matters for everyone involved.
Definitely. For consumers, for brands, for professionals.
So maybe a final thought to leave people with, based on all this. Considering how deep this good versus bad skin language runs,
Yeah.
how might consciously changing the words we use just in our own heads or talking to friends impact how we perceive what's actually normal?
You mean normal human variations?
Exactly. Not just on our skin, but maybe in other parts of life too.
Yeah.
If we stop judging skin so harshly based on appearance, what else might we start seeing differently?
That's a really interesting question. What's maybe one small word change you could make starting